sometimes go into higher heights, especially in life. I don't know if y'all ever seen when a rocket goes up into the sky. Some things start to drop off. The higher you go, the less people you'll be around. Would you have rather stayed in that position where you were because you didn't like the job. You don't like the career you're in. You're unhappy, but you're afraid to move because you fear what people will think. You fear the unknown. The unknown. Welcome back to another episode on the Way of Growth podcast with your host, Juliet. If you are new to this podcast is all about personal development, advancement, and growth. If you are someone that's looking to start a personal development journey and you don't know exactly where to start, then I'm here to assist you with that. Or if you're someone that's on your personal development journey and you need a little help just getting by, then I'm the person for the job. Or you may teach me a few things. That's why we're here to grow this community and to become the best version of ourselves. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about not being afraid to start over. How many of you have ever been afraid to start over? Whether that's a job, new career, same thing. Whether that's a new relationship, probably a new city, country, whatever it was, or just starting something new. How many of you have been afraid to start over? And in today's video, we're going to be discussing the main reason why people are afraid. We're going to discuss probably another reason why as well, but we're going to make sure that we narrow in on the main reason why people are afraid to start over. And also we're going to be talking about the pros and cons of starting over. And then we're going to talk about some of the disadvantages, some of the things that happen if you do not start over when you know you need to. So first things first, starting over is not an easy process. So I don't want to make it seem as if, okay, one day you decide that I'm just going to start over. This is not something that just happens and say, I'm going to do this tomorrow. Mind you, in some cases, it can be where you just start over the next day or the next hour, the next second. In some cases, it can be. But when you speak about starting over in relationships, starting a new career, or starting possibly moving to a new city, or just starting something new, it takes time. Okay? So I don't want you guys to feel like you just up and start over. But what I want to address is the main reason why people don't want to start over, the very main reason, is because they're afraid. They fail. They fail something. And we're going to talk about the three things that most people fail when starting over. The first things first is the fear of judgment. The fear of judgment from your friends, your family, persons closest to you. You fear their opinions. You fear what they're going to say. Like some persons, they'll stay in marriages that aren't working. And I have nobody to talk with no marriage because I'm not married. But there are a lot of people who stay in marriages that are not working because they fear what people are going to say when them and their significant other split. They fear starting a new life without their significant other. They fear the person that their significant other is going to start dating. They fear all kind of things because it's new. It's new to them. And I understand. However, from the beginning of time, people have always been judgmental. Always. Humans. We all do it. Even me, including me. And then I have to repent and ask God, to forgive me because just as the same grace that he gives and he extends to me, I also want to be able to extend that grace to somebody else. And you cannot fear what people will say about you because first things first, they're living their own lives. You have to do what is best for you. If you sit around and you worry about others' opinions, what they may think of you, you will never get anything done. And fear of judgment, half of the people that will probably judge you probably would never even take the risk or never even do anything in terms of starting over. So you cannot fear what they will think or say about you. The next fear that we're going to touch on is the fear of the unknown. People fear going into something that they don't know. They're not sure what will happen. They're not sure what will take place. They're not sure if this would work out. And to be honest, in some instances, things don't always work out. I'm just going to be straight up with you. There are going to be times where things don't work out the way you expected it to work out. When you step out and you start over, it may fail, but that's okay. That's okay. Even if it fails, you know that if it fails, you're able to start over now with the experience of knowing that, hey, I could try something else. I could try it a different way. In life, there are a lot of failures that we're going to go through before we even get to that one win. And most of the times, I'm speaking from experience, most of the times that one win supersedes all the failures that you've ever had before. It makes it seem like, wow, these failures were necessary and you have to just learn from them. Another fear is the fear of starting from scratch. Starting from scratch is not really starting from scratch, especially when you're starting over. It's not really starting from scratch because you're starting with experience. You're starting over now with the mistakes you've made before that you know that you need not to make again. So starting over from scratch somehow it's really good because now you know what mistakes you need not to make. And even if you make those mistakes again, we're all human. So don't be hard on yourself. Don't beat yourself down and make yourself feel like, wow, you really do this again. Because sometimes I make mistakes that I did before and I'd be like, you know what? Oops, I just brush that off and try again. What the little song say? Brush it off and try again. So just brush it off and try again. Just try over. There's nothing wrong with starting over and trying again and again and again. You are gonna fail so many times before you get it right. I think it's who's the guy who created the light bulb? I think it was Thomas Edison. Y'all can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. But I think he had 10,000 failed experiments before he was able to get the light bulb on. You know what it is to fail 10,000 times? I don't know. I don't know if y'all know how stressful that might be. But if he didn't stop, why are you going to stop? If he didn't stop, why are you going to stop at one failure? It's in the book Think and Grow Rich. And it says that most of the time man is met with many defeats before he can have a win. I do my own quote of that, but something similar to that in the book. But you're going to be met with all kind of defeats before you even get a win. So I don't see starting over as scratches wrong. So now we're going to talk about the pros and cons of starting over. One of the pros of starting over is that it's new. It's new. You're challenging yourself. And like we always say on this channel, we want to become the best versions of ourselves. We do not want to stay the same. I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to stay the same. And sometimes challenging yourself, it can feel hard. It is hard. Let me don't say it can feel hard. It is hard. But if you do not challenge yourself, you will not grow. Challenging yourself helps you to see, okay, I was able to get past this, so I was able to get past this. I could try something else and challenge myself, and I know I'm going to get past. It gives you the confidence to start something new. And that's one of the pros of starting over. So one of the cons of starting over is that you're going to be scared. I might as well brief you. You're going to be scared, you're going to be afraid, because starting over is not an easy task. Like I said in the beginning of the video, starting over is not an easy task. And that's one of the cons, but aren't we all afraid of doing something at times? If you're someone that knows how to swim, your first time going in the water, you're afraid. Yeah, you're afraid. But now that you know how to swim, it's the fear is not there anymore. So one of those cons, and you'll end up seeing as you begin to start your new life or start over, whatever it is you're starting over, you begin to see that, hey, that fear that I had in the beginning is now gone. Here's the thing. So I just want to give you guys an example. Have you ever been in a career where, you just feel so drained? You're probably even crying in your car because that's how much you hate that job. But because you're so afraid to try something new, you're afraid to get a new job. You're afraid to go in a different career path. You end up saying, how does that make you feel? How does that make you feel? You feel even worse. But if you had started with something new, even if it was unknown, even if it didn't work out, would you have rather stayed in that position where you were? Because you didn't like the job. You don't like the career you're in. You're unhappy, but you're afraid to move because you fear what people will think. You fear the unknown. And you fear starting from scratch again because it may be a new career. All of that leaves you in a position of being so stressed out. You stay on the job for years upon years, and you're literally stressed out, pulling out your hair every day. You go home to your family, you're not your best self. And is that what you want for yourself? Well, let's talk about relationships. Because I don't want to go to marriages. Marriages are something far different. Let's talk about relationships and friendships. What about that friendship or that relationship that you're afraid to let go because you don't want to start over? Because you're afraid that you may not find anybody else. Let's be real now. We have about probably almost 8 billion persons in the world. You really think you ain't gonna find nobody? Do you really think you're not gonna find anybody? That's just your mind making you feel like it will be such a hard task to start over. When in reality, you just gotta take the first step. The first step may be you crying on the pillow a couple nights. But eventually you'll be able to see that, hey, I needed to walk away from that. And another thing is, you know what I realized? I don't know if you guys ever realized this, but I realized that when I began to let go of friendships and relationships that no longer were good for me, and I chose to start over, was when I began to see my life go into a different level. A lot of times, and this is just my personal belief, I believe that a lot of times God cannot, and let me don't say that he cannot, he will not provide us certain blessings and stuff until we get from around certain people. You see, God gives us the ability to choose for ourselves. He gives us the ability, and sometimes he may send us signs and show us that, hey, this person is not going where you're going. You need to just, let loose. But because we don't want to let loose, because for one, we're comfortable. For two, we have a fear that if we let go of this person, that maybe their life will be better than what it was with us. And so what? And so what if their life becomes better without you? We all have our personal destinies. We all have our personal places to get in life. And if that says wish them the best and move on. And I ain't telling you what to do. I'm not telling you what to do. But I've noticed that the more that I've put myself into intentionally focusing on my growth, intentionally focusing on my relationship with God, the more I've done that, the less people I've been around. And sometimes it does feel like I'm alone. However, I know that even if I were to stay around some people that who I did have friendships and relationships with, they would have not been on the level, or they were not higher than me, and they were not on the level that I was going to. And I just remind myself of that and tell myself that it's okay. You're gonna be able to find people who are like-minded. I just remind myself of that, but I don't want to keep battling on with that. But I just want you to know that starting over, it may seem hard at first. However, it may be the best decision in your life that you've ever made. And I always say, I don't want to tell people what to do. I want you to analyze your life. I want you to sit down and reflect. I want you to be the person to decide that today I am going to make the change. And whether this change doesn't happen in a day, whether you cannot make the change in a day or may take a few weeks to make the change, you are the person that has to make that decision. Nobody else can do it for you. I've started over so many times with new ventures. I don't know if y'all noticed how much times I've been started over on this YouTube channel. We got our podcast now, y'all. And the fear that was associated with that, it is no longer there. When I first started this YouTube channel, I was so afraid. I don't know. I'm going to insert a clip of my first YouTube video. I'm going to insert the clip for you guys to see. And I was so afraid. But I just did it anyway. Because I realized that someone needed to hear the information that I was giving out. And regardless of how I felt, my fear, I had to overcome that. So that'll be all for this video. If you guys like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Do not forget to subscribe to this podcast here on YouTube, also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And until next time, guys, thank you for watching the Way of Growth podcast with your host, Juliet. See you in the next video.